joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. What I want to know first up is where your love of music came from. What was the spark that lit the flame?
Oh, man. Well, my dad, I think, was the sparklighter, and my sisters. My dad was a sax player, although he's what we call a weekend warrior in today's lingo. He worked the phone company by day in Chicago, and on the weekends he had a kind of a polka band called the Hi Hatters, and I used to, go see him play like I was only 5 years old, but he would be playing these weddings and bar mitzvahs and, VFW clubs, and I'd watch him play and see how all the girls seemed to flock around him. I think, I like that. And he was excellent player. But back home, I had two older sisters who were into rock and roll. They were like 10 and 12 years older than I was. So again, at age 4 or 5, they were bringing home the 45s with, Elvis Presley, a guy from Memphis, and Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, the Everly Brothers, putting them on our RCA Victor stacker, and I would watch them drop down and just get enamored with the sounds of rock and roll. And then when Elvis Presley hit the Ed Sullivan Show, I watched him and I go, this is what I want. I mean, I didn't verbalize it, but I knew there was something in the water there that I had to follow.
Yeah. So your first instrument, was that guitar?
Ukulele.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 4 years old. It was a very rich time for me. It was early days, very early. And my sisters played uke, and they put a uke in my hand, and the uke, that tiny little neck, was too big for my hand. So that shows you what size my hand was. But about a year later, I learned how to play chords, and my parents always went on vacations to Florida, so we'd drive from Chicago, my hometown, down to Florida, and I was in the back seat of our 52 Chrysler playing all the camp songs with my sisters, and those were the best times of my life.
Yeah. So going forward, your first band, was that Ides of March?
Ides of March.
Yeah?
Yeah, first band. We actually were called the Shondells initially. Had to change our name when Tommy James came along. But we became the Ides of March when we were all reading Julius Caesar in high school. Beware the Ides of March, sounds like a name. Better name than the Shondells, okay. First record came out on the Parrot label, British label, and it was called You Wouldn't Listen, which we wrote together at an all-nighter for my 15th birthday party, and it became a hit. Number 42 on Billboard, number 7 in Chicago, and all parts of Florida. And in the spring and summer of '66, we were on the road. We took a train down to Florida and played with the Allman Brothers, who were then called the Allman Joys, and all these other bands, and we're so young, but what a great time.
Yeah. So what did that mean to you, being a songwriter, having a hit?
I didn't really get it.
Yeah.
I mean, having a hit record, that's really us. Our song was featured on Dick Clark as the teen dance of the day, and there's our song, and the kids are dancing, and our hero Dick Clark is talking about us, and it was really kind of surreal.
Yeah. So where does the songwriting come from? Were you always a storyteller at school?
I was really good at literature, like composition, that's what I'm really trying to say, creative writing, and that kind of, went into the songwriting thing. You Wouldn't Listen, it was just I told you he was a fool, you wouldn't listen to me. He'll break your heart, you wouldn't listen to me. It was kind of like a Curtis Mayfield song, Through the Kinks, in 1965 or 6. But it was a story about a girl breaking a guy's heart, and he's going, hey, I told you. So that started the thing about telling a little story, not just singing 4 chords and blah, blah, blah. I liked stories.
When did you realize that songwriting for other people could be a possibility?
Well, actually, we were on the road, and I played with the Ides of March opened for Johnny Rivers. And I played him a song after the show, and it was called Freedom Sweet. And he loved it and offered to buy the song, and basically take my publishing. And at that point, our manager stepped in. No, you got to hold on to your publishing. And I was devastated. But that's when I realized I could market a song. But it really wasn't until years later when I got together with, after the Ides of March took our 17-year hiatus, and after Vehicle and the great success with that I put together Survivor. And at that time, the guy that signed us to the Scotti Brothers, John Kolodner, said, there's a new band I want you to work with. They're called 38 Special. He kind of talked like that, and I said, cool. Flew 38 Special down to Chicago, and the first song we wrote was a top 10 record called Hold On Loosely. That's when then it really connected, and I started getting checks in the mail, and I go, this is good.
We're talking about Survivor now. In 1982, you had possibly the most famous song in the world, with Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
How did that change your world?
I call it the phone call that changed my life. It was, I got home one day, my house in LaGrange, Illinois, and I had an answering machine, and I pressed it, and I heard a couple messages, and I hear one that stopped me cold. Hey, yo, Jim, give me a call. It's Sylvester Stallone. I go, yeah, right. Somebody's putting me on. But I called him back. I said, is this Jim Peterik? Is this really Sylvester Stallone? Hey, yeah, call me Sly. So here's me, kid from Berwyn, Illinois, talking to my hero, who was already a hero of mine because of the first Rocky, and then the second Rocky. He says, I got this movie called Rocky 3, And I could use that song, Gonna Fly Now, but I don't want to. I want something new, something fresh, something for the kids, And I like that song you guys got, Vehicle, when you were at the Ides of March. I love that song. Can you write us a song for Rocky 3? And I said, sure, He sent us the rough cut of the movie, and I called up Frankie Sullivan, who by that time was my lead guitarist with Survivor. We rented a big old Betamax Pro, took up the whole table. And we stuck in the big cassette, and we turned on the sound because there was another song that was temporary music, as they call it, which was called Another One Bites the Dust. So we turned that sound down, and I had my guitar pick and a guitar similar to this, not the fancy Tiger Stripe, but I just started going, like that. And about 2 days later, I was driving in the car, and I said, we got to score those punches. And I went, So went back to back to the drawing board. Yes, that's it. And called Frankie back. And by this time, Stallone sent us the whole movie, which was necessary. He only sent us the first 3 minutes initially. And there was no story. There was Mr. T rising up, and there was Stallone getting kind of soft and doing MasterCard commercials. And okay, I get that. But we really needed to see the whole movie. So finally he sent it, which he wasn't supposed to do. And that's when we got the whole gist of the Stallone was losing, Sly was losing his edge, and his trainer Mickey was saying, Sly, you're losing it. You're losing the eye of the tiger. Eye of the Tiger. We got our title. So that's when the whole story, really unfolded for us. And 2 days later, we had the song demoed at Stallone. Goes, holy, he flipped out, and he actually ended up using the demo in the movie. There's 2 recordings. People don't know that, but we demoed it in 2 days, and boom, went out, and it was fantastic. And we said, well, it's just a demo. He said, no, I need it for the movie now, So that's a different version. So then when we went into the studio to cut the album, we recut it because we wanted a better sound and everything. It took us a month to re-record. It's called Chasing the Demo. It's going, that initial magic, you get so excited. But we finally got it, plus we got the big sounds. And what surprises me is not that it went #1 on Billboard for 5 weeks that year, but that in 2018, it's still around, and it's still making a difference. I get the stories every day, and that's the real royalties of this story.
For Sure. How did your stage show progress as a result of having that success?
Well, we went from 0 to 60 in a one-hit record. We were doing the clubs in Chicago, and we were kind of opening up for groups like Jefferson Starship, and just the first two albums just didn't really catch on. They were critical successes, but they really didn't sell. Suddenly, we're on the big stages, and we're on the bills with REO Speedwagon and Bryan Adams, and mainly those two bands for about 3 years until we got headline status, and then we did our own shows around the world. And that song really broke us open. But everybody kind of thought, well, is that really a Stallone band? And there was a rumor that Frank Stallone sang it or wrote it. No. We're Survivor, we're a real band. But it took till Vital Signs, which was 2 albums after, that really broke us open as a band apart from the Rocky franchise. And that's when we got a new singer at that point, Jimmy Jamison. Dave Bickler sang the Eye of the Tiger. Jimmy came along and sang The Search Is Over, High on You, I Can't Hold Back, and Burning Heart from Rocky IV. So there we were back full circle with Rocky.
Yeah. Since then you've created a solo career for yourself, and you do all sorts of other projects. Has the way you write songs changed over the years?
Not really. My songwriting is always pretty much the same. I mean, I was writing one this morning. Usually starts with a title, which suggests a concept, and then I kind of hear a melody, The Search Is Over, I wrote in the car, the whole thing on a tape recorder, and I didn't even know what the chords were until I got home and heard what I was hearing, and I was able to play it. Nothing's really changed. I still go for a strong hook, a great melody, if possible, and a story of some kind, something that might resonate with somebody, Some of my favorite songs were written with 38 Special, a very big band here in the States. They're still touring, 200 dates a year or something crazy. But the first song we wrote was Hold On Loosely, and that really tells a story of me struggling to keep my first love as my first love, because I was, 18 and very possessive and jealous, and that didn't fly with her. And she said, Jim, you're getting, a little too close here. So when Don Barnes of 38 Special suggested the title Hold On Loosely, I said, yeah, but don't let go. And that story became my story, and it resonates with so many people that have the same experience.
Tell me about your journey with gear throughout the years and some of the brands that you've formed relationships with.
Well, my first great guitar was a Fender Jazzmaster. That was after my initial guitar. My dad bought me a Wandre when I was 11. That's an Italian brand. It had an aluminum neck and a fiberglass body, very advanced. Didn't sound real good. But it was from my dad, and I cherished it. I still have the guitar. But then I saved and saved from gig money with the Ides of March and bought a Fender Jazzmaster, Sunburst, phenomenal guitar, which I still had. But it didn't have the output that I was looking for. And so I went to Guitar Gallery in Chicago. That was way before Guitar Center. And there was a place on Wabash, and kind of a hip dude named Paul Staples showed me a gold top, a 68 gold top with P90 pickups. And I almost bought it. He said, Jim, I got to tell you, I special ordered 2 with humbuckers right from Kalamazoo. Can you wait a month? I said, absolutely. So it arrived, and I still have the guitar. Very unique factory humbuckers with black surrounds, black pickguard, very unusual. And it turned out to be an early 1969. I played Vehicle on it, and still a magic guitar. Amplifiers, I was always a Fender guy. I had a dual Showman, a blonde one, with 215 JBLs all throughout the Ides. Near the end of the Ides, I got a 410 Tweed Bassman from 1959, and that became my amp all throughout the Jim Peterik band, early Survivor. I love the Bassman sound. It was clean, but there was a way to break it up a lot sooner than a dual Showman. So I still have one of those, and I love that amp. But recently I've been using orange amplification. I love those. I have a Sur amp that I love, and a matchless.
How has technology impacted over the years on what you do?
Mainly, technology in the studio is really the big change, I guess. I built a studio in my home maybe, 28 years ago, and I put in a Neve 8068 and a Studer A800, and I loved it, but it always broke down, and of course, if you wanted to change anything, you had to splice tape and cut tape, and but what a sound. But when Pro Tools came out and the whole digital revolution, sold the Neve, which I'm still teary about, sold the Studer, and equipped with Pro Tools and some of the greatest Neve mic pre's I could find, some of the greatest microphones. And now it's kind of the best of both worlds with Neve front end, digital capabilities, and all the great software. Now you don't have to have a rack of Pultecs, you can have them right at your fingertips. So I think that's the biggest change.
Yeah. So tell me about the projects that you're doing now and into the rest of 2018.
Yeah, it's a real exciting time because a lot of my chickens are coming to roost or to nest. I think I'm making a career out of bringing people back into the recording situation. I'm working with 38 Special again. And they're such road dogs, they never take the time to go back in the studio, and they kind of have the attitude, as a lot of us do, oh, well, it's really not going to sell the way it did and all this. I said, when you were 15, you didn't do it because it was going to sell. You did it because you wanted to, you loved it, and you knew that it was what you were put here to do. So that's my rap to all these bands. So now I'm writing with 38 Special. I'm doing a new record with Dennis DeYoung, former lead singer of Styx. We're about 8 songs deep into a new solo album that sounds amazing, and he still has the voice and goes out there and tours. And then one of the greatest victories of my recent past is co-writing with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. And I had a hit with Brian and his producer, Joe Thomas and Larry Millis, a 4-way write on a song called That's Why God Made the Radio, which went to #2 on Billboard in 2012 and became the title song of their tour. And then Brian went solo again, and now we're doing a new album with Brian. It's very, again, another surreal moment to be writing with one of my heroes, because when I was growing up, it was the Beatles and the Beach Boys and Burt Bacharach. You know, those were my 3 writing heroes. So I haven't done Burt Bacharach yet, but who knows?
What are you most proud of, Jim?
Well, I guess, really it's that I'm still here and still doing it, and I'm still passionate about it. And I look back at all those hits and I'm proud, but I never feel I can rest. And people say, what's your best song? I said, well, I hope I haven't written it yet, and that's what wakes me up in the morning in a good way, and say, I got some songs to write here. I got a difference to make. I got to relate to some more people. But as a one song, I guess Eye of the Tiger, not because necessarily it's my best song, but it's my most effective song. And it's affected the most people, and that's a real proud moment for me.
Yeah. Jim Peterik, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Greg.